The atmosphere on The View that morning was supposed to be lighthearted. Willie Nelson had been invited to talk about his upcoming tours, share a few stories from the road, and maybe strum a tune or two. But from the moment Joy Behar opened the segment, the air between her and Willie was heavy. She made a teasing remark about his age, intended perhaps as humor, but Willie's face tightened. His hands clasped the armrest of his chair, his calm demeanor replaced with a sharp, watchful silence. The audience gave a mixed reaction, some laughing awkwardly, others exchanging glances. It was clear the comment didn't land as Joy had expected, and the tension had only just begun to brew. Trying to recover, Joy pivoted to politics, asking Willie about his outspoken opinions in recent interviews. But her tone had shifted from playful to probing, and each question felt less like a friendly inquiry and more like a verbal sparring match. Willie answered evenly at first, keeping his voice low and his responses measured, but Joy kept pressing. The other hosts on the panel sensed the discomfort and tried to redirect the conversation. But Joy's persistence overrode them. Every time she interrupted, Willie's eyes hardened a little more, and his jaw seemed to set like stone. The once real country legend now looked like he was calculating each word carefully to avoid an explosion. The breaking point came when Joy brought up a recent controversy surrounding Willie's charity work. She framed her question in a way that implied questionable motives, and the audience gasped audibly. Willie shifted forward in his seat, his voice suddenly carrying a steel edge as he defended his cause. "I've spent my life trying to help folks, Joy," he said, his tone low but cutting. "If you think you can twist that into something ugly, you're talking to the wrong cowboy." The room went silent. Joy smiled stiffly, clearly not expecting such a direct retort, but she quickly tried to laugh it off. Willie didn't laugh. Kelly Clarkson, sitting in as a guest co-host, leaned in and tried to steer the moment toward music, asking about Willie's songwriting process. For a brief second, it seemed like he might take the olive branch, but Joy cut in again, doubling down on her earlier point. "I'm just asking questions," she insisted, her voice louder now. "People have a right to know." Willie slowly removed his cowboy hat and set it on the table in front of him, fixing Joy with a look that could burn through the studio lights. "Lady," he said, "there's asking questions, and then there's picking a fight you don't want to finish." The audience reacted with a mix of gasps and scattered applause. The camera panned to the other hosts, who looked both alarmed and fascinated. Joy, perhaps feeling her authority challenged, pushed back harder, suggesting that Willie's public persona didn't always match his private beliefs. That was it. Willie leaned back, gave a slow, deliberate nod, and said, "Well, I reckon that's my cue." He stood up without waiting for the segment to end, his long braids swinging over his denim shirt as he turned toward the backstage area. The crew scrambled to figure out if they should cut to commercial, while Joy tried to speak over the commotion. Willie's walk toward the side of the stage was deliberate, not rushed, but every step radiated defiance. The cameras tried to keep up, capturing the stunned faces in the crowd. Someone from the production team attempted to stop him, just off camera, whispering urgently, but Willie raised a hand and kept going. Back at the desk, Joy attempted a half-joke about cowboys riding off into the sunset, but it landed flat. The tension in the room was now a living, breathing thing, wrapping itself around the studio and suffocating any attempt at humor. As the broadcast awkwardly transitioned to a commercial break, social media began exploding. Clips of Willie's cutting remarks and his slow, almost cinematic exit were already circulating online within minutes. Hashtags like #WillieVsJoy and #CowboyWalkoff started trending. Some viewers sided with Joy, defending her right to ask tough questions, while others criticized her for disrespecting an American icon. Willie's fans flooded the internet with messages of support, praising him for standing his ground and refusing to play along with what they saw as an ambush. Behind the scenes, Willie was calm but firm. A producer caught up with him in the hallway, asking if he'd be willing to return after the break. Willie shook his head, saying, "I came here to talk music and love, not to have my integrity dragged through the mud." His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was steady, the kind of tone that comes from a man who has weathered decades of storms and learned when to walk away. He put his hat back on, tipped it to the crew, and kept moving toward the exit without looking back. When the view returned from commercial, Joy addressed the audience, saying she respected Willie's choice but stood by her questions. Her co-hosts exchanged careful glances, clearly eager to move on. Kelly Clarkson, still on the panel, spoke up gently, noting that sometimes conversations can take a wrong turn and that everyone deserves a little grace. The audience gave her a small round of applause, but the energy in the room remained unsettled, as though they had all just witnessed a family argument at the dinner table. Asterisk, by the end of the day, the clip had racked up millions of views, sparking debates on morning shows, talk radio, and news segments nationwide. Willie, meanwhile, posted a short message on his social media. "Life's too short for bad vibes. See y'all on the road?" The simple post only fueled his supporters' admiration, framing him as a man who chose dignity over confrontation. Joy's team released a statement defending her journalistic style. But the moment had already escaped into the wild of public opinion. For days afterward, people argued over who was right. But one thing was certain: Willie Nelson's walk-off would be remembered as one of the most dramatic exits in daytime television history. Joy Behar leaned forward again, unwilling to let the matter drop. "Willie, you can't just hide behind the 'I'm a country boy' excuse forever. You've got a platform that could reach millions. Why not use it to educate instead of just entertain?" Her tone was part challenge, part provocation, and it made the entire studio lean in to see what Willie's answer would be. The tension had grown so thick, it seemed like even the sound crew was holding its breath. Willie finally exhaled, his voice low but sharp. "Maybe because I believe in letting people think for themselves, and maybe I don't want to be lectured by someone who's made a career out of stirring the pot for ratings." The crowd reacted, instantly half gasped, half clapped, while Joy's smile thinned into a tight, unreadable line. "Okay, folks, let's take a breath. This is The View, not a boxing ring." But even her attempt at humor couldn't diffuse the tension entirely. Willie leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, hat tilted low, giving the distinct impression he'd already decided he was done. Joy, however, wasn't finished. "It's not about lectures, Willie, it's about responsibility. You've influenced generations. Don't you think that comes with some obligation?" Willie's eyes locked on hers, and the pause before he answered felt eternal. "My obligation is to be true to myself, not to fit into the box you think I belong in." The crowd erupted again, some cheering, some booing, creating a live, chaotic energy that producers backstage scrambled to control. The camera operators knew they were capturing television gold, raw, unscripted, and deeply uncomfortable. Joy's voice rose slightly as she pressed on. "That's the problem. Everyone hides behind being true to themselves when they don't want to take a stand." Willie's brow furrowed, his normally easygoing demeanor cracking. "You want me to take a stand? Here's my stand. I believe in freedom, for speech, for thought, for music. And that includes the freedom to walk away when someone tries to twist my words." The audience roared, but this time it was mixed with startled murmurs as Willie's hand moved toward the mic clipped to his shirt. Joy blinked in surprise, realizing he might actually make good on his threat to leave. The tension spiked as Willie unclipped the mic, the small pop in the speakers confirming it. Whoopi's eyes widened, and she reached toward him as if she could physically keep him in his seat. "Willie, hold on," she began, but it was too late. Willie stood up slowly, tipping his hat to the audience with a faint, wry smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Thanks for having me, folks. Y'all take care." The studio erupted into chaos, some audience members clapping in solidarity, others calling out for him to stay, while producers in the wings scrambled to figure out how to cut to commercial without making it look like a disaster. Joy Behar's face was a study in stunned defiance. She sat back, folding her arms, as if daring anyone to accuse her of being the reason for his exit. Whoopi shot her a look, a mix of exasperation and warning, but Joy simply raised her eyebrows and turned to face the cameras again. The co-hosts fumbled to fill the dead air, throwing out light-hearted comments that landed awkwardly. Meanwhile, Willie had already made his way to the side stage, where crew members trailed behind him, unsure whether to try and coax him back or just let him go.